So the Ralf Rangnick era is upon us at Manchester United. They host Crystal Palace in the Premier League this weekend. Before we get on to the Gegenpress and the new man coming in the dugout, we've spoken about him so much. Let's talk about the opposing dugout first, because Patrick Vieira was one of those managers coming into the Premier League that we didn't really know what to expect from. People were talking about De Boer's disaster at Palace, and could that be replicated? Well, it couldn't be further from what Vieira has shown us so far. The team has gelled, they're cohesive, they're playing great football, and they're bringing through so many names that we hadn't seen in the Premier League of yet. Lots of things going right for Crystal Palace right now, James. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think Vieira deserves a lot of credit for this. I think the recruitment has been fantastic. I think it's a new era of player that comes through the door at Crystal Palace. I mean, if you look at the age of the squad last year in comparison to this year, the amount of 30-plus players was pretty ridiculous, but it was very clear that it was the end of an era, an older manager as well. And you had a lot of players at the end of a contract and making way. And that's why we had those concerns, because so many new players needed to come through. But the likes of Anderson, the likes of Gay, the likes of Conor Gallagher, of course, as well, coming through, Edouard as well, really exciting players coming in. And then the likes of Joel Ward's really, really improved. Tyrick Mitchell, I think, has gone to a new level this year as well. There are concerns, though, still for me, because this is a really young squad. And I think with that, you get the feeling that they kind of need to be careful in terms of their confidence. I think we're all kind of being very kind to them at the moment. But those key things, the brutal elements of Premier League football, set pieces and late goals, that needs to calm down, because they've conceded 10 goals from set pieces so far this season. That is way too much. I think the next worst is 6 so far this season. They've shipped 3 goals in the 90th minute. That has cost them points. And that's got to stop pretty quickly. There are positives as well. Palace, they've already beaten Man City away, beating them 2-0. The last London side to win away at both Manchester clubs in the same top flight campaign was Arsenal in 1991. So it's one of those where if they are able to get into a new gear and crack on and see more goals, then and stop those set pieces goals, then I think they could flirt with a top 10 finish maybe. But if they don't, then it could get a little bit scary for them. Have you been impressed with them? It's kind of been everything apart from the score lines, don't you think?
I have been, well, I say impressed. I'm a difficult man to please. I've been infuriated by those late goals, because it's not just the fact that they've conceded it, it's the manner in which they've conceded them as well. And it has shown a bit of inexperience. I always say I fear for clubs that buy a lot of players from the Championship at one time, because I feel like you run the risk of essentially turning yourself into a Championship team if those players don't hit the ground running. Things have gone very, very well at Crystal Palace. All of those players seem to be settling in. The good thing is there isn't a huge reliance on any of those signings. I think that's the important thing. So you buy 6 or 7 players, they're all playing their part, but there is no big key player that's been brought into the club to change things or transform things. Everyone's doing their job, everyone's playing their part. But I think getting accustomed to Premier League life and not having huge pressure on your shoulders has been a massive positive, I think, for Crystal Palace. I'm very impressed by the fact that they play football. I mean, I didn't know what to expect from Patrick Vieira, even though he's someone who played under Arsene Wenger for so long, because his teams in France haven't always been a great side to watch, particularly at Nice, and they often didn't win matches that you would have expected them to win. So I didn't know what to really expect. I was hoping he was going to do well at Crystal Palace. So far, it has been very good, but they just need to cut out that little bit of inexperience, that little bit of poor decision-making that has cost them those points, because they could be looking at a pretty strong mid-table finish. Look, we're used to seeing Crystal Palace in 12th or 13th or 11th. You know what I mean, right? Around that area of the Premier League table. I think Palace fans would take that right now, because they've got so many young players and they seem to be going in the right direction under Vieira. So I don't want to see anything negative about them right now, because I think it's a process, and it's a process that started very well under their new boss. The question is, how will the process begin under the new boss at Manchester United? Ralf Rangnick coming into the club. We saw him in the stands at Old Trafford, the theatre of dreams, as Manchester United beat Arsenal on Thursday. He stood, he applauded at the end of the game. The football director, John Murtough, was beside him as well. And you thought, wow, 2 people who actually might know something about football working at Manchester United. Incredible. He's probably going to have maybe a day and a half on the training pitch with the United team ahead of this game. I'm not sure he can really get everything across, to those players. One thing that has really disappointed me, though, I've got to say, as a Manchester United fan, I think the players have just, for Michael Carrick in those 3 games, he beat Villarreal in the Champions League. He got a draw at Chelsea. He's beaten Arsenal. There are some very basic things that the Manchester United players have been doing in those 3 games that suggested they down tools this season under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because I'm sorry, just sprinting, just running, just applying pressure. Yeah. You know, people can talk about tactics all they want, but you pull on that shirt for the biggest club in the world, you go over that white line, you have got to put absolutely everything in. And those Manchester United players simply weren't doing that under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They've just about got to 100%, 99% in the last few games, particularly the game against Arsenal, where it seemed like they really were putting in that real level of desire and heart. But to see that they weren't doing that previously for a club legend really saddens me, to be perfectly honest. You know.
Yeah, I mean, the performance against Arsenal, great game, by the way, really was a cracking game to watch. But it was one where it felt a bit like Man United from last year. It was so the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer kind of tactics were there at times, but just with a bit more energy. And a few basic things that I noticed were that desire to not play those sideward passes, to try and play those little diagonal balls. Harry Maguire in particular looking to do that, and the midfield as well. A few more plaudits for Fred, who had good moments and bad moments, but ultimately kind of won the game for Man United. And I think it's going to be very, very fascinating to see Ralf Rangnick and his demeanor on the touchline in this game. Is he going to be heavy metal himself on the touchline going into it? What I did see was a lot more energy. Bruno Fernandes showed that passion. I thought, we spoke about this and I've said it a few times, someone's going to have to bend here. Will it be Ronaldo? Will it be Rangnick? I think it will be Ronaldo. I think you saw it, you know, when the crowd was there cheering him on. There were a few more sprints. He was putting that work in. And, you know, everyone talks about his physique and how fantastic it is. Well, we certainly haven't seen the running over the last 4 years. But in this game in particular, and the Chelsea game as well, there were those moments and those sprints. And he still is electric at times when he wants to be. And, of course, scoring the 2 goals for the team as well. You know, you spoke about Palace and that they don't have that one talisman. Let's not get it twisted. With Man United, they're trying to find a way where you can play Ralf Rangnick football, but also allow Ronaldo to continue to be the talisman, because 801 goals, I think, says it all. And he's just a fantastic finisher for them. And in this period, they've got some really great games coming up. They can be really excited, I think, Man United, with the run, and it will allow Rangnick to implement what he wants to. Are they all a bit too close together? Quite possibly. It's going to be interesting to see where the rotation is. Diogo Dalot had a great game, I thought, yesterday as well. It's going to be interesting to see if he becomes the regular right back now. But they've got Palace, then Norwich, then Brentford, then Brighton, then Newcastle, then Burnley, then Wolves. It's a great time to be a new manager at Man United. Going into this game, then, they didn't beat Crystal Palace on either occasion last season. Do you think they will beat them in this game?
I do. I think the atmosphere at Old Trafford is going to be sensational, just to welcome the new boss. They said goodbye, unfortunately, to Michael Carrick, who, again, I think there is, although people have left the club, there was sort of a warm feeling around Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and the interview that he did and the words that Carrick said at the end of that Arsenal game as he departs. He hasn't had a break since he retired from playing, of course. He's going to have some time on the beach. And now it's all about Ralf Rangnick and what he can do, his intensity, his pressure on these players. Hopefully it will turn some of them into diamonds. He's all about laying the foundations over the course of this season for whoever comes in next summer. And I think he can do that just by changing the approach on a day-to-day basis and turning these players into people who aren't there for a good time, but are there to work their butts off. And if they do that, I think there's a lot of talent within this group. They can certainly be a success. I think they will beat Crystal Palace, and I think they're about to have a very, very good run as well. I think it'll be pretty comfortable. I'm going to say 4-1, 4 goals.
I'm not sure. Okay, all right. If we're in that kind of spirit, I'm actually going to go for a Crystal Palace win. I think they'll sneak one. Great on the counter attack. They've got some really exciting youngsters. I think Man United might struggle with this transition here, and Palace to win the game. I'm going to go 2-1 Crystal Palace. Hi guys, James Alcott here from ESPN's Football Forecast. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and you want to check out more, make sure you subscribe to ESPN UK.